Welcome to another edition of the Harmon Solar Podcast. I'm Rob Romano, VP of Sales and Marketing at Harmon Solar. With me, as always, is my co-host, Ben Wolfschlager. You guys also know him as Mr. Everything. Ben, how are you?
It's good to be here.
Is it good to be here?
I'm excited.
You're excited.
Yeah.
Your belly's all full?
Belly's full and ready to go.
You had your potato stuff?
Yep. Potatoes, mozzarella.
It's all good.
Cheese. Good.
All right, good. So today's a good one. Today's an exciting one.
That's an interesting one.
What are we doing today?
We're doing this live, basically.
Live. We are doing a live show.
We have a special guest, and there's no script on this one.
Right, and it's live for us. It's going to be tape for everybody else. But,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we don't know where this is going to go.
So we're doing an actual appointment
Yep.
with a couple that's interested in going solar.
Yeah.
Something we've never done before. We talked about it.
We talked about the whole process of going solar and what the sales and the proposals and service and everything looks like. But now it's well, what's it like to be in an appointment with Ralph and Ben?
Yeah. God help you. Okay. And with that, we just got their utility bill. They're interested in, they've been looking at solar. They wanted to look at it. We got the utility bill. They haven't seen this yet.
Nope.
I barely just saw it.
I haven't seen it.
Okay. You just put it together, but okay.
Roll panels on the roof.
So we put this together, and we're actually going to do a live pitch and see what it looks like. And it'll be either really good or it'll be really bad.
We can always edit it out.
We may need to. So anyway, let's get started and let's bring in. We have Neil and Amy, our homeowners that are new to the Phoenix area, and we've invited them to come on. So here they are.
Welcome. Congratulations on being the first non-Harmon Solar employee on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having us.
It's an honor.
That's true.
It's an honor.
So Little Birdie has it that you guys are interested in solar. You moved to the Phoenix area, I think, in August, right, of last year?
Yes,
So you're from Minneapolis.
correct.
Right.
Welcome.
Good move.
We think so.
Yeah, I think it's a good move.
You'll find out in the summer if it was good or not.
Well, they were here in August.
Well,
It was 180 degrees out here.
yeah. Well, you missed July when it was 179.
Yeah, and panels will not melt on your roof, I promise. People like putting them up there, but panels won't.
Disclaimer.
So what we're going to do is Neil, you gave us your bill.
Yes.
And I think there was at least back to August, and there was some usage before that because I think you guys were Airbnb in your place, right?
Yes.
So it's not real. And so we're going to add a percentage on top of what the bill says. I think we're going to add like 20+%.
Yeah. So what we like to do, we like to look at, well, what were you using? What's a typical year for you? And we take your utility bills and we see, okay, you were using X amount, so you need a solar system that's going to produce X amount as well. But you guys aren't typical because you don't have a full typical year because you moved in. You don't have a full year under the belt, and that first year was kind of wonky. So we do have to do a little bit of estimating on our part. And kind of
Our usage was definitely below average because the house was sitting unoccupied for days at a time. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I know some companies will just take your full bill and go, "That's what you're using." Okay, well, that's not how we do it. So
let's ask a couple of questions. We should do a couple of questions up front.
Yeah,
right.
Do those questions up front.
I think my question would be, why are you interested in looking at solar?
We've heard it's all the rage.
You heard it's all the rage.
It's just fun to do.
Well, in Arizona, there's a lot of sun, and it's energy, and it could save us money. And honestly, we never experienced it in Minnesota. There's not enough sun. So I'm just interested to learn more about it. And
Well, I mean, there are plenty of people who have solar in Minnesota. I don't know how they justify the cost other than some massive Minnesota subsidy that I didn't know about. But I mean, for us, we're looking at, we've never had a pool before, so obviously that's additional electricity. Not knowing how the summers are going to be and knowing how it affects the heat pump on our house. But also, too, we're thinking about things like getting a heater for the pool. Okay. And obviously, we're not going to run it year round, but we know that that's obviously very energy intensive. Right. So, part of it, too, is like she said, just trying to figure out what's out there, but also, too, listen, to be honest, I kind of, I have this thing about being off the grid a little bit. I realize it's not 100% off the grid, but the idea, the less I have to rely on APS for stuff, the better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very common thing that a lot of customers want. They're like, I don't want any bill. I don't want anything to do with APS. And I'm like, well, unfortunately, they're going to be there.
Yeah.
They were there when you first started the home. They're going to be there forever. So you kind of have to get used to that, that notion of you're always going to have some sort of payment to APS for being connected to their grid.
Sure.
So that's not going to go away.
As long as it's like $10, I'm fine.
Okay.
And that was disappointing.
We'll edit that part out. No. Okay. So other questions that we like to ask is, how old is the home? because the reason why I ask, because a lot of newer homes are more energy efficient. They can hold, they don't use a whole lot, whereas older homes,
Right.
they transfer energy a lot. So people tend to use more in typically older homes.
Yeah, the home was built in 1980.
Okay. And how old is the AC unit?
Oh, that's a good question.
2012?
Yeah.
Or was that the newer, or
No,
was
I
that the roof?
No, the roof was 2012. I think the AC was
2020.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so
Pretty
the
new.
AC is right. Yeah.
Okay, so it's it's fairly new AC. So
Yes.
typically when the AC starts to get to around that 10 to 12 year age, that starts to die. A lot of people say, no, my AC is working fine, cold air is blowing out. Yes, that's true, but it's using more energy to do that.
Yeah.
Instead of it, running for 2-3 hours a day, it's now running for 24 hours a day just to keep your home at that temperature. So a lot of the older ACs will do that. So you said your AC is about 4 years old.
Yes.
So still
But your
good.
roof is about 14 years old.
The roof is now this was weird because the roof is really old, but for the inspection when we bought it, even the inspector commented on how good of shape it was in.
Okay.
So it's like that really, and if you look at it, it doesn't look like it's got problems. So I mean, obviously they've been in there, and I know it seems like the roof's okay at the moment. It's not showing the typical signs of 20 years old or whatever.
Sure. So previous owners might have replaced like the underlayment or something. We won't know until we actually get out there and take a look at what your roof looks like as far as warranty.
It's
goes.
asphalt shingle, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not your typical Arizona
tile.
tile stuff. It's just a shingle stuff. So
Okay.
that helps.
Yeah, we can take a look at that. So yeah, as far as your usage goes, what's going to be kind of a typical year for you guys? Are you home 24/7? Like, do you work from home, or are you always gone because you're at work, or do you travel a lot? What's typically for the year?
Yeah, we both work from home.
Okay.
So we are home a lot.
You're going to be using a lot.
Yes.
And that's true throughout the year. You don't like snowbirds or travel or.
Traveling would be a week at a time here and there, but not an extended stay unless it gets really, really hot. Maybe we'll go back to Minnesota for a month.
Okay, good. And then just out of curiosity, how many people live in the home? Usually more people. There are more people coming in and out, using more electronics and adjusting thermostats.
Just two. It's two most of the time. Our daughter comes home from school and she's around a little bit, but the vast majority of the time it's two people.
Okay. So it's probably going to be fairly consistent year round as far as your habits. Do you foresee anything in the future that might impact your usage? I know you mentioned a pool heater, so that could obviously cause your usage to go up. Any like electric cars, hot tub, or building a guest house, things like that.
Well, yeah, we're probably not gonna do a casita or any kind of ADU or guest house.
Okay.
We have talked, and it's not been serious, but we have talked about potentially getting an electric car.
Okay.
I mean, it was on the table, obviously, moving to Arizona, just because, I mean, first of all, everybody's got them. And second of all, you can actually practically use one here year round, probably year round. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, with nothing serious, but we've thought about it.
Okay. Yeah. Because a lot of times when we get into when people will have solar, they go, hey, my bills are high. And I take a look at it and go, well, your usage, your solar system's working fine, but your usage increased. Why is that? Like, oh, we got 2 electric cars. Like, well, if we would have known that to begin
Right.
with, we could have, adjusted accordingly. So it's good that we're getting all this stuff out of the way so we know what is your future going to look like so we can kind of cater your solar system to that future.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
we're
that's
not.
what doing.
It's nice to know that we're thinking about what could be and building that into the estimate as opposed to only solving the problem right now because it's going to change.
Yeah.
More than likely over time.
Yeah, because a lot of people, when they do have those changes, their usage increases. They go, "Can I get more panels?" I'm like, well, yes, you can, but it's going to cost. You have to re-permit, you got to redesign, and then you're going to lose your APS grandfathering. It's better to kind of do that all in the beginning and play it safe versus, I can always add panels later down the road. Because yes, you can, but then there's consequences to doing that.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun to me. I would be okay with doing overcapacity now, knowing I'll grow into it potentially. So
Good.
The only other thing I can think of is potentially a little more electricity use. Excuse me, outside. We're redoing the backyard a bit besides the pool with lighting and electricity. Getting a TV outside so we can watch baseball. And stuff like that. So
Typically those low voltage light, like landscaping lights and TVs, they don't really draw a whole lot. The biggest thing that you're going to find in Arizona is your AC. That's probably makes up 80% of your bill, because I don't know if you know this, even at nighttime in the summer, we run our ACs. When it's 110 degrees at night, we run our ACs. So you're going to be constantly using a lot. So I'm sure you've looked at your bill and you see that kind of a bell curve that's in that summertime. That's because you use a lot in the summer because of your AC.
Oh,
so, we do get those people that have those heated pools. So when you do decide to get a heater, you'll see the little spike in the wintertime as well. That's because of your heater.
Yep.
So,
Makes sense.
do you have gas or electric heating?
Electric only.
Everything electric?
Yeah, no gas in the neighborhood. So
Okay. So you're going to be using a lot, it seems like,
yes,
now and in the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
correct.
So, what I also like to do, looking at your bill, I like to find out what is your rate at which you're paying power. And a lot of people don't know what that is. So if I ask you, what's your average kilowatt hour rate?
Have no idea.
Yeah, see?
No idea.
Don't worry, nobody knows that. But how much is gas per gallon?
$3.99 when we
See,
were on our way
Depends
here.
if I go to Costco or not,
Right.
but whatever.
It's around. So people know that because it's always in your face. Everywhere you drive, you see gas stations. They're advertising their price per gallon. Your electric company kind of does the same thing. You're figuring out what is my price per kilowatt hour. But on your bill, it doesn't show that. You kind of have to mathematically
Correct.
figure it out.
So you have to reverse engineer it.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. So when you get gas, where do you typically go? Costco, QT, Circle K, or just whatever's cheaper?
Costco, unless we're running really low, and then we just try to find something close.
So electric car is what you're
Right.
There you go.
Okay, so I like to relate solar to gas because again, it's always in your face. It's very relatable to people. So when you go to Costco and you get gas, I can't remember how much gas is at Costco, like $3.70 ish. So
Something like that.
if you have one Costco, it's $3.70, and right across the street, it just happens to be another Costco. Poor planning on the city's part, I guess. But that Costco gas is $3.50. Which one would you go to?
Obviously, the lower price.
$3.70 or $3.50? Yeah, so it's the same gas. So I'm going to the one that has a lower price per gallon. It doesn't matter how many gallons you get, whether you get 10 gallons or 20 gallons, or filling up your car and your boat and your RV. You're still paying that $3.50 per gallon. Same thing with APS. Right now in APS, the average is about 16.
I'd say 16.5.
16 and a half cents.
Yeah.
So 16 and a half cents per kilowatt hour, because there's, as you know, on peak and off peak times, and on peak is more expensive. Off peak is cheaper.
Yeah, we're on that the time of whatever that
Time of
plan
use
is,
plan.
the time of use plan. So
Yeah.
from 4 to 7, I try to shut the house down for 3 hours. But
Well, I'll be able to tell how good it is. So the average right now in APS is 16 and a half cents.
okay,
If you are very conscious about on and off peak times, and you're basically turning everything off during on peak, it's going to be lower than that average. If you're like one of those people that I don't really care, I'm going to use power however I want, it's going to be higher than that average. So what I do is I take a look at your bill and I figure out what is your price per kilowatt hour. So on your bill, it has, and I have a copy of this bill. This was your, what bill is this? February bill. So not a whole lot of power going on there.
Correct.
But if you look at your price per kilowatt hour, I take how much you paid divided by how much you used, and I get 16 cents for February. So you're about average there. You're maybe a little bit below average for February. I have your August bill. This looks like it was like the first bill.
yes,
That was you guys weren't in the home, right?
no, that was the first full month we were in the home.
First full
was
month
August,
you were in.
yes.
Okay. So I do the same thing. Take how much you used, divided by take how much you paid, divided by how much you used, and I get 17 cents. So you were above average in that case.
Yep.
Typical for first, people in the home in the summertime. They don't know how on and off peak power works, and you probably weren't shutting everything down, but then you probably got used to it here. So
Yep.
February, you probably see these bills and go, wow, I'm paying $255 a month. That's
Well, the other thing too is that
ridiculously-
I was also on. I had a different when we first got the house, knowing it was going to be an Airbnb for the first 6 months. We did like what they call the average one, where it just takes the average of the whole year and just gives you that.
The fixed,
so that's
yeah.
what that was. We switched to the other plan probably December, I think.
okay.
So, but yeah, I mean,
It's
still,
saves you a little bit.
it's yeah,
It's
there's
high.
Yeah, it's high. Yeah.
Okay, so the goal with solar, as you mentioned, that you're trying to accomplish, you're looking to save money. So in order to save money, you want to be paying less than that 16, 17 cent range. It doesn't matter, again, where you get your power from. If it's from, same with gas, Costco here or Costco there. It doesn't matter where I'm getting from. I just want to pay less for that.
Right.
That's the idea with solar, is you want to pay less for that same power. I don't care how much I'm using. I just want to pay less for, that power.
Sure.
So
Okay.
that's where solar comes in. You want to show the proposal? Do you have a little button links?
I do.
Do you want to interject or?
No, you're doing very well.
Thanks. It's my first day.
So knowledgeable.
So when you want to give them their,
Sure. There you go.
I'm starting at the second page. I don't want to give their address away. So
Why not? Are we going to show us
we'll
phone
flash,
number?
we'll flash it on the screen.
How are people going to come over if they don't know where I live? So it's fine. Anyway.
Okay, so I know you got that first page that's really great and fantastic, Ralph, but I don't really care about that.
Okay. Thanks for playing.
Get right to the meat and potatoes of it. That first page was just basically about electric rates are going to increase. It happens every year, and I'm sure we have another rate increase coming, right? It's supposed
They
to be
just did an 8% increase
8%
that got
increase.
approved, and I'm sure they'll be doing another one here. in a
Well,
minute.
you know why I know about those rate increases?
What's that?
Is because
Harmon
right
solar
after they
panels?
happen, well, no, that's the good reason why I know. But the reason why is because something that I did not experience in Minnesota is when those rate increases are coming in, I am inundated by people coming to my door trying to sell me solar.
Yeah.
Like dozens of them.
It's a call to
like.
action, right? They get that call to action and they start doing that. That's
Well,
what makes sense.
and the thing is, the funny part is that they don't come out and say I'm selling solar.
Sure.
They always it almost sounds like a political survey. Like we're here to ask you what you think about the rate increase. Of course,
I love it.
I'm looking at their shirt and I see it's a solar company.
Yeah.
So I'm like, anyway. But what I've posted the no trespassing sign on my front door, and I've actually even put I added no solar on the bottom of it. So hopefully they'll stop doing that. But anyway,
No,
They won't.
They won't stop.
Just the next time they come in, you gave the exact answer. How do you feel about the rate increase? I absolutely love it.
love the rate
I'm
increase.
so
I love
excited.
I would love to pay more.
so you're saying they're like the Terminator? They'll never stop?
Yeah.
That's okay.
The other thing you're going to hear about in APS, well, you'll start hearing about this July, August, is they have what's called the buyback rate that increase. It goes down every year. So APS can drop the buy. The buyback is basically if you overproduce power on solar, that excess goes back on the grid to APS, and they basically give you a credit for it.
Right. Okay.
Well, a few years ago, that credit was 13 cents, 14 cents, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Now it's 7.6 cents.
Oh, wow.
And they'll go down 10% a year. And you'll get grandfathered. So if you were to go solar, let's say before the end of August, you'll be grandfathered at 7.6 for the next 10 years.
Oh, wow.
But if you don't go by then you'll be 10% less than that, and that'll be your grandfathering for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's how.
Oh,
so
that's
it's
what you
another.
were talking about.
Yeah, it's another call to action for solar companies to go out and try to sell solar.
Yeah, that's why I like to tell people we're in the "I told you so" business, because I have no problem with people, want to think about it, get their resources, make a decision either way. But it's one of those, if you drag your feet for 2, 3, 4 years and go, okay, now I want to do it. Well,
too late.
Everything's changed.
Yep.
You missed the good buyback, and now you're in the just okay buyback, right? So
And
you
what
keep waiting, it's going to be even worse.
What we do here at Harmon Solar is, so when we're done with this proposal, that door locks. And then you can't get out.
You
And then
have
we
to
beat
sign.
you until you say yes. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
I love living in Arizona. It's so friendly.
That's a great sales style. You should
Isn't
write a
it?
book on that. That's
Come here.
fantastic.
He's the VP of sales.
I told you you're going solar.
All right, so back to the presentation.
All right. So
what-
look, there's your house.
Yeah, so what we proposed is, so we got your house, and by the way, you have a fantastic south-facing roof.
Yes.
Which I'm sure that's why everyone's knocking
Yeah,
on
it's
your
the
door.
perfect solar roof.
Correct.
And sure, like you're a homeowner and you're going, yeah, I'm sure you say that to everyone. No. I'm sure I can show you a lot of homes where I just would avoid and be like, no, it doesn't make sense for you because you have a lot of cuts and angles. But you have a south-facing roof. It's perfectly flat. You can put the full array right there on the back of the home, which apparently everyone loves to have it out of sight, and they don't like to see it from the road. So back of the home, south-facing. Good job.
Perfect.
That's why you picked your home when you bought it, right?
100%. Yes.
That and their neighbor has solar. That's why.
Oh, okay. I see that. Yeah. So what we're proposing here is 16 panels. Each panel's 410 watts right there on your roof. As far as the layout goes, does that look okay? Is that kind of where you want it? Do you have any objections to, no, I don't want it there, or anything like that?
It's fine with me.
Seems like it makes sense where it is.
When
Yeah.
if you
More
see the yellow
difficult.
dotted line that's around your roof, so that's called a fire setback. So there needs to be
okay.
a 3-foot space for the fire
Yeah.
department to be able to go on your roof and fight a fire if needed, cut holes or whatever.
I see.
So they got to be able to step around it. And then we try to keep things away. You have some obstructions up there, and then you have your AC unit up there. So you obviously don't want to go on that. Your AC unit's probably a little tall, so it's going to shade a little bit here and there. So that's the prime place for it right there.
Interesting. Okay.
And then you have their neighbor that has this huge tree in the far back there. If you see that the shading that you're getting,
Yeah.
Yes.
it doesn't. Does it ever go on your house at
No.
all?
No.
So it never. Okay, so it
No,
won't
this is
impact
the
you.
shadiest you'll see it. This picture.
Do you know what
Okay.
type of tree that is? Does it get taller? It's like a
It
pine
is-
tree.
it
It's
is-
pretty tall already.
Okay.
I don't think
I
it's,
feel like it's mature, so it's not. I don't think it's going
Yeah.
to grow.
So if it were to
more.
get taller, it could impact you down the road. Like,
well, if it is, I'll just go over and cut it down his tree.
all right,
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that sounds super legal. I think.
Yeah,
it
that's
is
fine.
absolutely.
No.
I'm
Well,
sure
they
you
told us
love
they
the
don't like
leaves
the
in your
tree.
pool too from that tree.
But they're
No, they didn't until when it got so hot in August, the tree actually got stressed and it dropped a lot of its
All of it.
foliage on our backyard.
Not
so
a lot
yeah,
of it.
but not in the pool.
All of
On the
it.
pool?
Yeah, all of it. It actually grew back though. So, but no, so you were joking, but that actually kind of happened. So there you go.
yeah, well,
That'll show you.
that'll show you.
But to make a point, there's things people don't think about is there's a tree there that's shading. It may not hit your roof now, but it may hit it in 3 years,
Right.
4 years.
Right.
So you got to think about those
Yes.
things. And
Yeah,
people
that's
don't
true.
think about
So
that.
yeah, we take a look at kind of the whole landscape, not just your house and your backyard, your neighbors as well. So it looks like it's fine.
Well, actually, that's a good point because we are, like I mentioned, we are going to be re-landscaping the backyard, and I do want to put in some more trees and things like that. So that's a good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Is if we have solar, we don't want something that's going to grow so high that it'll shade over.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Good to know.
So you do have more room. You have room on your roof to add more panels if you want. So this is just kind of a proposal of like, hey, this is what we think would work for you guys, based off of what you've kind of told us. So if you do want to go bigger, you do have the room to do so, but obviously the more panels you have, the cost increases. But there's pros and cons to that, and we can get into that
Right.
in a little bit. So down at the bottom where it says usage offset, it's 123%. That is a guess. So that's basically saying if you used about 10,000 kilowatt hours a year, and this system produces 12,300, divide those two, that's how we get 123% offset. I would kind of ignore that because I don't want you to get caught up on your offset, because I don't want you to look at your utility bills and go, wait a minute, this system was supposed to produce 123% of my usage. Again, that's just for that month. It wasn't for the full year. This is assuming that you're using X amount and it's producing X amount.
Right.
Hopefully, if everything goes right, which it should, it's going to produce that amount, that 12,379. But we don't know how much you're going to use. We just kind of take an educated guess based off of our conversations that we've had. So I would kind of just ignore that offset for right now. Because
But I think if we looked at their bills, we thought with what they had and estimated about 20% over that if they had that same year again,
Right.
it would be about
100%.
it would be 10,000 and change if I remember right.
Yeah. We estimated your usage to be about 10,000, but based off of, you didn't have a full year and we kind of wanted to have that extra cushion. It's really, we're thinking that your usage might be closer to like 11, 12,000.
I
So
agree.
that's kind of what we do. We go, okay, you're going to be using 12,000 kilowatt hours a year. We need a system that produces 12,000 kilowatt hours a year. So that's why this system is producing 12,000, a little over 12,000, because we think that's what you're probably going to use. That's important to realize because of your habits in the future. If you decide to use more, that extra power has to come from somewhere.
Yep.
And I know it's a very common misconception. A lot of people get confused. They'll say, "Hey, I've got a pool, a hot tub, and four electric cars, and 10 people moved in my house. How come my electric bill has gone up because of that?" Well, your solar system doesn't just magically produce more because you used more. It's only going to produce about that 12,000 kilowatt hours a year. If you decide to use more than that, that extra power has to come from somewhere. You're buying it from APS. If you happen to use less than that, that extra power, APS is buying it from you.
Yep.
Make sense?
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, that 12,300, that's basically you saying, hey, I'm buying this much power from Harmon Solar.
Right.
However much I use, that's dependent on me. But my system's only going to produce this. Okay?
Nope.
I
get
would
that.
only say if they're thinking about doing a pool heater and a couple other things, they might want to think about going a little bigger.
Sure.
That's what I would. That's my opinion.
It all depends on, it's a good point. People say that I'm getting a pool heater. Well, how are you planning on using that pool heater? Because we do have some people who get a pool heater and they could be like Ralph and only go swimming twice a year.
Well, no, and that's
But are you
yeah.
going to go swimming, every day in the wintertime and using that pool heater? So
Yeah, I think
we don't know how you're going to use it.
right. I know we've talked about it, and I think that pretty much honestly the primary reason we want the pool heater. Obviously, once in a while we're going to use it, but when we have friends and family from out of town coming in, we'll fire it up. We're not going to have it running nonstop, or we're not going to use it 7 days a week.
Right. Or just
She
extend
might.
the season. So start it,
Yeah.
maybe in March, April, so that we get a little more time to use it, and extend it into September, maybe
Yeah.
early October, and then only bring it on when we have people coming.
Yeah, we're
around of
probably
town
not gonna swim much in like December, January,
You
unless
say
we're
that.
unless we're just trying to spite people, unless we're trying to send post Facebook pictures of us in Arizona in January, going,
Send it to your Minnesota friends.
"Hey, what is it? 12 below out there? Oh, I knocked over my my drink by the pool. I don't know. Oh no. Anyway,
It's horrible.
It's horrible here. This is the life. Okay, so any questions on this page before we move on?
Well, talk about the inverter.
So the equipment that we're using, like I said, 16 410 watt panels. Basically, that means you have a 6.56 kilowatt system. How do we get that number? You take 16 times 410. So 6,560 watts, or 6.56 kilowatts.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know what that means, and that's okay, because you're not really buying that power from APS. You're buying the extra power that you may or may not use based off your solar system's production. So
Right.
the real number to pay attention to is how much am I producing?
Mm-hmm.
That 12,300 and some kilowatt hours. And then you have N-phase inverter, micro inverters. So each panel has its own inverter. So what does that mean? How does it translate? I always think of Christmas lights. If you have a string of Christmas lights, you take the bulb out. If you take one out, the whole string goes out. That's a string inverter. They have that with solar panels as well. If one panel goes down, then that whole string would go down.
okay.
Microinverters is like if you take one bulb out, just that bulb is out. The rest of the string is still lit. So if you do have a problem with your system, if a panel goes down, the rest of the panels will still be working. Or if that tree just decides to get a little bit bigger and one panel is shaded, just that panel is shaded, the rest of the panels are still going to be operating.
Okay.
So
Good to know.
there's pros and cons to microinverters and string inverters. We won't get into that. I'm sure we have a podcast regarding all that stuff.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
A couple of them.
A couple of them. So, as far as the equipment goes, are you guys happy with that? Does that sound good? I know I try not to tell people get hung up too much on equipment, because it goes back to my gas station scenario.
Right.
It's gas, gas at 370 or 350. Does it really matter? No, I'm going for the cheaper one. So,
Right.
the warranties and everything are about the same on all panels and inverters. So, pretty much every company you go with has the same warranties. But Harmon's just a little bit better.
A little better. Yeah.
We can get into that. All right, next page. This is your production and consumption. So looking at your months, this was the current energy consumption for each month. That's what we said. It's about 10,000 kilowatt hours a year based off of your bills. Again, that's just an estimate, because some months we had to estimate it, but that's why we went a little bit bigger and saying your solar production is 12,000-ish. So we think you're going to be using about 12,000
Okay.
ish. So that's what that whole graph basically says. But the next page is kind of more important, because it takes that information and it kind of translates it to, okay, but what are my bills going to be? So looking at month by month, and this is a very important page, because a lot of solar companies will mislead you. They'll say things like, you'll never have a bill with APS. That's not true, and there's proof right here. Or they'll say you'll only pay $20 a month. Those days are gone. That's not how it works, because
Right.
again, the buyback rate changes. So look, based off of that solar production and based off of that usage history. So I don't know how you're going to use power in the future, but based off the history, this kind of goes into how am I going to be billed after having solar. So looking at January before, you paid about $138 to APS. With solar, you're going to be paying about $32. So a little over $100 savings there. And then you can see as it goes, you get into March, April, and May, and early June, you actually have a negative bill. That's because in those months, you're producing a lot more than you're using, because during those months, hopefully, you're not running your AC. You guys running your AC right now?
No.
No heater?
No.
But it's still
Heater.
sunny out. Well, not today, but
Right.
it's still sunny out most of the time, and that power has to go somewhere. So APS buys that extra power from you. So you're producing way more than you're using. APS buys it. That's why you get those bill credits. And those bill credits is kind of like a savings account. They transfer over month by month.
Okay.
Those months are very important. I always tell people, those months, that's when you build up your savings account to apply in the summer. Because in the summertime, everything's flipped. In the summertime, we use more than we produce. So I know that's a common misconception. A lot of people in the summer, like, it's 120 degrees out. How come my solar system's not producing a whole lot? Solar is based off of light, not heat.
Right.
And we also run our ACs at night when there is no light. So we use more than we produce in the summer. So it's very important to build up credits. And I always tell people, live miserably now. You know, don't run a whole lot of appliances, save up as much as you can, because in the summertime, that's when it's really hard to live miserably.
Yep.
You know, that's really it's really hard to adjust my thermostat to 85 degrees because I realized I have a high bill in the summertime. Whereas in the springtime, you know, instead of running your AC, maybe just crack a window or open up the door. You know, live miserably during this time when it's 75 degrees outside, because you'll build up all those credits to apply in the summer.
Okay.
Because if you look at your bill starting in July and August, you can see that they do start to go up. Mm-hmm. It's not as high as your $180 or $250 bills. They're lower, but they do kind of go up. And what happens is those bill credits that you've built up in the spring, they start applying. You dip into that savings account in the summer months. And hopefully you have enough to kind of last you through the summer. What we see for some people is they start getting those negative bills and they go, wow, I have a negative bill. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to start running all my appliances. I'm going to start doing this.
I'm going to buy some spotlights and just, flash them in the sky.
I do need 10 electric cars.
Exactly. And then they get that first summer bill and it's like, wow, my summer bill's only $5. But then they get that just basically means you've wasted all your credits on that 1 month. And then when they get their July bill, they go, oh, wait a minute. I have no more credits to fall back, because again, in the summer, you're now using more than you're producing. You're not sending a whole lot of power to APS anymore to buy. Mm-hmm. So you've wasted all your credits, and you still have July, August, and part of September to go through. So
the APS buyback, is that goes by the year then, not by the month?
No, it's by the month. It's by the month, yeah.
Okay.
It's by the month, but it's important to build up as many credits as you can to last you through the summer.
Okay.
And to your point, you kind of made it, and I'm going to make it again because it's so important for everybody that's watching this too. If you look at the very far right where it just says average, it says you have a $149 average bill. Your post-solar bill would be $22.46, and your monthly savings would be $126. That would be something the typical solar company shows you, just that.
Yeah.
They don't show you any of this other information. So then all of a sudden you have a bill in August and September of $90 or $85, and you're like, what's going on here? They told me I was going to have a $20 bill.
Yeah, it's the average.
So nobody ever shares this kind of information. We're the only company that I'm aware of in this state that has a proposal that actually breaks this out by month to show you, no, you are going to have bills on certain months, especially in the summer when the system cannot overproduce what you're using.
Right.
So this is a critical page for people to look at when you get a proposal from Harmon, because you can see the estimate that we think based on the numbers we've given this system. Remember, this is a proposal. It's an estimation. It's not going to be 100%. Hey, my bill wasn't 90.29. It was 95.36. It's an estimation based on your usage history, right? So this is what we think it's going to happen. The system thinks is going to happen.
And I know a lot of people, they'll look at this and go, okay, well, why don't I just have more panels? Let me go to 200% offset or 250% offset, and then I'll have no bill because I've built up so many credits throughout the year. It should last me the whole year. That doesn't happen. I've looked at enough bills, and I think we even had a podcast where I showed an example of someone had an over 200% offset, and they still had a bill.
3 months out of the year, they do.
3 months out of the year, they had a bill. There were a lot of negatives, sure, but then 3 months out of the year in the summertime.
And that also depends on how much are you paying to produce every kilowatt hour in your system, because that's where the buyback comes in.
Yeah.
So let's say you're paying, maybe you financed it, and maybe the solar company got a good piece of commission off you, and maybe you're paying 10 cents a kilowatt hour to produce. But every time you overproduce, APS is only giving you 7.6.
Right.
So you're losing 2.4 cents on every one that you give to APS.
So we got to find that sweet spot, basically.
Right. So you could actually go too big and lose money.
Yeah, a lot of people, they're like, I'm only paying 3 months out of the year because I have a huge 200% offset solar system, but solar's not free, unfortunately. I know the advertisements out there say it's free. It's not free. So that person who has that huge system with the huge offset, they paid for that, or they're continuously paying for it monthly.
Right.
And sure, their APS bills are low, but the cost of the solar system is still high. You're not really seeing that benefit of the savings that you want. So the sweet spot that I feel is usually between about 110 to 150% ish offset is kind of that area where you're doing good.
Okay.
But higher than that and wishy-washy.
So one of the other things I want to point out is, depending on time of year, what you'll notice is around 4 o'clock, especially in the winter months, you'll start seeing that production drop down below what you're consuming. And you still got 3 more hours of where you're doing that time of use of 4 to 7.
Right.
So you have 3 more hours, those 3 hours of expensive time. So what some people will do is when that is dropping and the consumption's going up, they'll put a battery in there. So the battery will kick in because it'll be charged throughout the day. And then at 4 o'clock, now you'll start pulling kilowatt hours out of that battery for 3 hours to offset paying APS the higher amounts. So the thing about batteries, it sounds cool, right? That's awesome, right? I want a battery, but they are kind of pricey and they're hard to look at as a return on investment because they typically return, I want to say 10 years on a battery sometimes.
Probably, yeah.
Oh, interesting. I was going to ask about batteries, so that's good that you brought that up.
They do have their place though, right? They definitely will help you in those hours, that period of time. Now in the summer, you'll see that you're going to get more production out of your system because it gets dark at 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Right.
So your system's still producing farther into the day, so it's not a bad thing. But in the other months, your system dies at 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Now you need something.
And we have those conversations with customers as well, especially new customers. It's their first month of solar or their second month of solar, and they call in and go, "Hey, my solar system, only produced 500 kilowatt hours this month, and if I multiply it by 12, it's it's not going to meet the guarantee." And I have to tell people, well, it's a bell curve. You're going to produce more when it's in closer to the summer, and then it's November, so it's not producing as much. So yes, it's producing 500 this month, but the next month it's probably going to go up a little bit because we're getting closer to spring, and the next month it's going to go up, and next month's going to go up. So you have to look at it as a yearly bell curve of how much am I paying for the full year, how much am I using for the full year, and how much am I producing for the full year. If you start looking at it as individual days or even just a month, you're going to drive yourself crazy.
And just to make my point to the people watching at home, so if you look at your screen, you'll see I have December up there, and you'll see that orange line is the production line, and you can see how it drops sharply around 4 o'clock. It's just dropping, and then all of a sudden the consumption, when it's that bluish purple line, is now overtaken that. This is in December, very typical, right? When I go back to, I'll go to September. And you can see in September, it kind of changes a little bit as your consumption and your production are kind of going on a little longer because there's still light in the sky and you're still producing, and then it drops. So you just see the difference about how you can see in this model, the consumption is way higher because it's summer, right? And the production, it's kind of almost leveling out. But when I go to the other months, look at that curve you see in December where you're producing all that power during the middle of the day and you're not using it.
Right.
So that's where Ben's talking about the credits and things like that. So you can just kind of see how it shifts throughout the year.
Yeah.
Very important.
I'm clicking on my paper, but it's not changing.
Yeah, the paper one doesn't work. I'm not really sure what's wrong with that.
Do I just keep clicking?
Yeah, we got an hour. Go ahead.
Okay.
All
right. Next page, please. Next slide. So this is how your utility bills over time. Again, we won't spend a whole lot of time on there. Basically, it says, over time, APS, your utility company is going to be increasing your rates. So that's what I've said before. We're kind of in the I told you so business. If you want to take your time on it, that's fine. But I wouldn't take 20 years to make a decision because by then your electric bill looks like it has quadrupled in the next 20 years. So,
and to the point I made before, this is what a typical solar company will show you. Hey, look, your traditional payment's $149, but look, your monthly payment's only $22.40.
Right.
So this is a very misleading slide if you don't have the other page in there.
Yeah.
And this is typical of what a typical company will just show you this page.
Yeah.
Look at all the money you're going to save, right? Great job.
Actually, can we go back one slide? I got to mention one other thing.
Sure.
So depending on when your system gets installed too and turned on, that will depend on what your bill is. So again, if you look at what do I have here? The June bill, -$5. But if your system was installed in the late May, you can't expect your June bill to be that -5 because again, you didn't have the previous months to build up that savings account.
Yep.
So
good point.
It's a longevity thing, but there is a kind of timing that goes involved. A lot of people that get their systems turned on before summer, I kind of have to educate them again and go, just so you know, you didn't have February, March, and April and May to build up those credits. You'll see that next year. So you kind of have, the growing pains of solar in the first, few months of the summer. It'll be okay again for next year. So we have to revisit that. But there'll still be a savings. You still won't have a according to this, you still won't have a $133 bill if you're using that amount. It'll be less. It just won't be as cool as -5.
Sure.
Cool.
Pun intended.
Cool, like the other side of the pillow.
Next page, why solar? We already talked about why solar savings. So now the meat and potatoes. How much is this thing?
$5.
Sold.
6.
I got a federal tax credit, so that means I'm going to get all of it back. No, I know it's not that.
Yeah. So the system that we're proposing again are those 16 panels. So again, solar's not free. So the cash price on this is $15,000. You do get a tax credit if you qualify, and we have a whole podcast on tax credits and everything. So federal tax credits $4,500, and then Arizona state tax credits $1,000. So it makes your net cost $9,500. Again, they are tax credits, not rebates. Disclaimer: Harmon Solar, we're not tax experts. Talk with your tax advisor and claiming the tax credit.
If you pay the government taxes at the end of the year, you can apply this tax credit to that liability.
Typically, I ask customers during this time if, do you know your tax liability? What is it? Things like that. But you don't have to share that in front of all of our thousands of people watching this.
Thousands.
So, well, yeah.
Hundreds of thousands.
Me watching it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Close enough.
So, yeah, you don't have to disclose that, obviously, to everyone.
But if it all works out for you, your net on this is $9,500.
$9,500, yeah.
Wow.
And we have other options. You can, lease
cool.
it, monthly finance it, just like buying a house, buying a car. You can pay cash. You can, finance it. We have no money down. You can put money down. Depending on you and your situation. I don't know your financial situation. Some people have some money to put down. Some people, will say, I don't want to put anything down. I just want to go solar for no money down. I'll just pay monthly for it.
Which we can do.
We have that option. And again, my paper's not working.
You want me to show one of those
Click on,
options?
yeah. So you can do that on here.
Yeah.
See, look at that. There's a
So
click down.
let's show a 25-year 449 option.
So 25 years, no money down, no money out of pocket. Boom. It gives you your costs. I can't see. There's a glare on the screen, so you
So
have to read it.
you now, you would encase your cost of the system is $21,460.
So that's what you would be financing. This is the cash discount of $15,000.
Right.
Which is what the price was. We just discount it because it's cash, right? So
sure.
we go back to the original price of $21,460. You'd have a payment of $86.06 a month for the first 18 months. Now, after that 18 months, you have a choice of either taking the tax credit of, which in this case now would be $6,400, and putting that back into the loan. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, that payment stays at $86 for the remainder of the loan. If you don't do that, then the payment jumps to $122.75 for the remainder of the loan. So that's the decision that people have to make when they finance credit. Do they want to put that tax credit back into the loan, or do they not want to do it? Mm-hmm. So some companies don't like to talk about the fact that at month 19 it goes up.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So they don't mention that. They just talk about the payment of $86. They don't really mention that if you don't put the $6,000 back in, that payment's going to $120.
The old
$125.
bait and switch.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So we kind
Interesting.
of show that out to kind of show you can go either way.
Yeah. So financing it, again, you're going to have two bills. You're going to have your APS bill, which is, like we said, $22. So then you're going to have your financing for the solar system, which is what I can't see. $86.06. So you have, roughly $108 for an average payment for electricity. So that's
If you financed it for 25
if you financed it. So going back to that previous page of the monthly cost and everything, it's saying that your average cost was about $150 a month. Now for that same amount of power, now you're paying $108. You're saving like what, $50 a month.
Still not bad.
Putting no money down, no money out of pocket, paying
Sure.
saving $50. That's essentially you calling APS and going, hey, can you lower my bill by $50 a month? And them go, yeah, sure, we'll do that. Can we try that?
I used to always use the analogy of, imagine APS knocking on your door at the end of December and saying, here's $600.
Yeah.
Would you tell them no?
Yeah.
No, keep your money. I don't want it. That's basically what you'd be doing in this scenario if you finance.
Can we call APS now and see if they'll do that?
We could, but we don't have time.
Okay. All right. We'll be on hold.
So I'm going to put it back to a
So
cash
yeah,
value.
again, I don't know how you guys were looking to do this, cash or finance or lease, but those are the options. And then if you are paying cash, we go to the next page. You probably want to know, what's my return on investment? And this is a big thing. A lot of solar companies and just people in general, they're thinking, what's my return on investment if I finance it? Well, if you're not paying anything out of pocket, there is no investment. There's nothing, there's no return on your investment. So you can only look at a return on investment if you have an investment. So the $15,000 option, it looks like if you look at the far right-hand side, there's your negative numbers. It looks like it's about year six and a half.
The beginning of beginning of 6.
So it's about six-year return on investment. After that, system is essentially, quote, paid off because of your savings, and now you're pocketing all that money.
And I think this one shows an ultimate savings after 25 years of like $50,000 that you've saved.
I'm not pocketing it, to be fair. She's taking it.
Right.
So.
Right. She's going on vacation.
So this is actually very good.
It's decent.
It's
It's all right.
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
Just because I'm very new to all of the solar, and one of the things
too.
when we were first day, I forgot. When we were looking to buy a house, there were houses that had leased solar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the difference when? I mean, obviously, when you own your own, you own it, but I've heard that you should probably stay away from a lease, or
So-
just because it's
We have a
Not
podcast.
necessarily.
Watch that.
Yeah, here's a podcast. Watch it. No.
Okay.
So obviously you don't own a lease system. The leasing company owns it because if let's say you don't have a tax liability,
Okay.
so there's you don't pay the government money every year, so you just don't have it. Your tax credit's not going to do anything for you.
okay.
So you would go ahead and lease a system. They're going to take the tax credit on it because they own it.
Okay.
All right, and they're going to provide you the power basically. So it's their system. They monitor it. They maintain it. Anything happens to it, they get it fixed. It's their system.
Oh. Okay.
You're just getting the benefit of the power being cheaper.
Right.
So you're paying a monthly payment for that power, and it's on their system, and you don't own it. And then when you want to resell the house, let's say you want to sell the house as a lease system, most leasing companies will probably either tell you you're going to need to pay the system off and then sell it as part of the home,
Okay.
or you can try to get the person buying the home to qualify for the lease payments and take them over.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Got
that's
it.
where
So
some people
it
see it as a
complicates.
negative, right? It depends. In this state, it's done a lot. Where it gets hairy is back in 2017, 18, maybe even 16, 17, there were a lot of companies out here selling solar, and they were selling leases, and they were putting what's called an escalator on leases. So payment would go up like 2.9% every year. It would go up.
Oh.
And companies were maybe being a little dishonest and selling them a little higher than they should have, and they're just not very good financial
Yeah.
systems on their home. So that makes it really hard to sell.
Yeah.
So you have to, if you're going to buy a house with a lease, you need to look into a lease and see what you're getting.
Got it.
Yeah.
Leases are good; they can be very good. It just depends on that person's situation. That's all.
Yeah,
Got it.
when I was
Okay.
home shopping, there was a few homes that I liked, but they had a lease system on there. So I asked my real estate agent, "Can you give me a copy of the lease so I can take a look at it?" Because I know a thing or two about solar. So I get it, and it would be like a 2.9 escalator that they got 10 years ago, and like this is your new lease payment, and I'm like,
Yeah, it's messed
I would
up.
have to assume that lease for that home. And I'm looking at the the financials of it. Yeah, sure, your utility bills were low, but like the lease payment, because it escalated so much in the past 10 years, now I'm going to be paying more for my power. So it didn't really make sense for the time, and that unfortunately caused me not to put an offer on that particular home. So, but again, a lease could make sense for some people, like if it didn't have an escalator, or they got a good deal, things like that. But they're assumable. You can just transfer the ownership to the new owner.
Or you could just, if the homeowner just pays it off, you could just pay it off, and then
yeah.
they'll just have the lease, but they don't have any payments on it.
Yeah,
So they're just going to have the benefit of the power, which is kind of nice too.
yeah.
It just felt like a lot of hassle.
Yeah.
It can be.
So,
It just depends. I mean, real estate agents do not like solar because they don't understand it.
Yeah.
So whatever they don't understand, they just don't like, which is the wrong approach. So most of them will steer you away from it. But the funny thing is that solar homes sell quicker than non-solar homes in the state of Arizona. There's
Yeah.
data on that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to know.
but I mean, we don't want to bash leases, obviously, because like Ralph's saying, that somebody else owns it, they maintain it. If things go wrong,
There's
it's-
advantages there.
There's advantages. There's production guarantees if you are
Yeah.
if you underproduce, because if your system goes down and it's not producing power, you're still paying for that power. So a leasing company is going to credit you that difference of the lost power.
Interesting.
If you own the system, you're not going to credit yourself for owning it. So it's your system. You own it. Yes, it's going to be under warranty, and we're going to still come out and fix it. But if it's down for 2, 3, 4 months,
And then just
That
don't
lost
get
power.
around to it. That's my problem.
that's
Yeah, because
exactly.
you have to monitor it,
You
not
have
us.
to monitor. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for us, we wouldn't be thinking about leasing. It would be, well, I mean,
A purchase. Yeah.
would-
lease or purchase.
I'm trying to decide what, I mean, it depends on the situation. It could be straight up cash. I mean, if we financed it, that's attractive too. But it wouldn't be a long term. I wouldn't want to finance it that long. I get.
How long do you plan on being in the home? Is this like your forever home or?
I would say I think we've talked about at least 10 years.
Okay, good.
So maybe not forever. Well, we'll see.
Okay.
Depends. If I get solar and I like it, it might be my forever home.
Well,
you don't know. But
I asked because of that return on investment. We said it's about 6.5 to 7 years. So hopefully
it's within the range. Yeah.
Hopefully
you brought that up.
in
Yeah.
7
there.
to 10 years.
Yeah,
Probably.
a lot of people when they get solar, they want to pay cash for it, but they're only going to be in the home for 2-3 years. I'm like, yeah, you could, but you're not going to see that return.
That
on
doesn't make
investment
any
until
sense.
you live
Yeah.
in there. It's fine if you want to include that in the sale of the home and try to recoup some of that money back. But that's ultimately your decision. But if you're planning on being in there for 10 years, then a cash purchase would make sense if you have that cash.
And appraisers are starting to more and more. When I started in this 11, 12 years ago, appraisers didn't have any idea how to add value to the home with the solar on it. So they didn't. But now they do.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it actually does increase value of the home. If they're all learning different ways, it's getting better and better, but it will add value to your house. No doubt about it. Especially if you paid it cash. That is by far the best way to do it.
Sure.
No doubt about it.
Cash is king.
Cash is king.
The other pages are kind of just nonsense.
No, they're not nonsense.
I'm just kidding. No, they're fine, but it's not. I mean,
like this one's a good one. So
into-
it talks about our process,
Yeah.
right? So right now, as part of the process, we're reviewing everything. You'd go ahead and get approved by financing, or you pay cash. And then there's what we do after you guys sign all the paperwork is we send somebody out there to then go through your house and we do a site survey. We look at your roof, we look at your electrical panel, we look at where we want to put the panels to make sure they'll fit. We just look at everything to make sure it's going to be good. If it's clean, great. We do this. If it's not clean, we're going to come back to you and say, hey, it needs this, it needs that.
Yep.
Do you still want to do this? If you do, here's the cost of doing that to make sure it's going to work.
So give me an example or two of issues you find with the panel.
Or with the inspection to see.
Yeah,
The,
Like,
the
what are the
electrical
things?
panel?
Yeah.
So your home was built in 1980, so we don't know the condition that it is. When we built this proposal, it's basically taking Google images of aerial view of your home. We didn't go out to the home to take a look at your panel if it's.
Do you have a full panel with no breaker availability, no slots?
No
available?
breaker availability.
Okay, so that could be an issue right off the bat,
Could have
right? So we
Well,
might.
that's why I was asking.
We might have to put a sub panel on there in order to come away from that because we have to add a breaker on there for the solar.
Right.
Or your back feed might be overblown already, and we're going to have to give you an upgrade because it's not going to work, and you're not going to be able to handle the solar.
Sure.
So you probably have. Do you know if it's 150 amp SES? Is it a 200 amp? Do you even
That is a good question. I don't know. I did know that when we got our pool equipment redone, they added a sub panel
for the pool equipment?
for the heater for the future heater. We don't have the heater yet, but we've got the wiring all done for it. But they had to add a sub panel.
If I had to,
Pool, the equipment now is on the sub panel. The
Yeah.
the
Right.
filter in the pump.
so
they-
there's one breaker on your main panel that goes to that sub panel where
Correct.
the pool is.
Yep.
And there's no more room on that main panel.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's a chance that we might have to upgrade your panel.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
And so
going
that
into
we
it,
get
right?
upgraded to a 200 amp, and
It could be a 200 amp. We could do a sub panel. We can.
There's a lot of options.
Sometimes we can rearrange breakers. It depends.
We'd have to look.
We don't know.
But that's something I'm sure that people don't think about
No.
when they're, and if for an older house, it makes sense to think about it because that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the house has been running fine forever, and you start adding new stuff, and people don't even anticipate the needs.
I would
so.
say, based on what you guys have already been saying, is you want to put a heater in eventually. You were thinking about electric cars. I would probably want to upgrade your panel.
Okay.
It would make a lot of sense. I mean, they can look at it and see.
Yeah.
This is my personal opinion on how I work. I would want to upgrade it, but if our electrician goes in there and says, "Nah, it's fine," I think you guys will be fine. Then we're good to go.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it. But
Okay.
in the back of my mind, I'd be thinking, man, I might want to do that. And it's not like it's a major investment to put a new panel in. So
Yeah.
what is it like? $2,500,
Something like that.
something like
Right.
that, $300,000, depending. There's things that could be around that
Yeah.
too, but as an average cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Again, we just don't know. I know we've run into so many different scenarios, and we have all kinds of stories where everything looks fine
Yeah.
and great on paper. Then we go out and do the audit, and we realize, wow, this this is actually a fire hazard, and we have to replace your whole panel now because
The roof has a sunroof, and all of a sudden it wasn't meant to be there. There's a big hole there.
This is dangerous. Yeah, we go out to the roof. The roof looks good on paper. I don't know, but when we go out there and we realize
sagging.
I had a customer where the roof was sagging a little bit, but
Oof.
we
Didn't
didn't know
see that on
because
Google
it's
Maps.
straight down.
Right.
Yeah, so we don't know.
And we have to
Right.
go look in your attic and see what the trusses look like. You know, make sure that's we've seen cases there before we go in there and the trusses are doing this,
Oh boy.
Yeah.
right? So we're not going to do
Or
that.
they're cracked. Yeah. So
And then the way we install is we make sure that we hit a truss with every lag bolt.
Okay.
So we're not just going to go into a plywood.
yeah.
Where other companies, that's what they exactly do, or they'll put a hook on your tile and that's how they do it. We make sure we're hitting every single truss when we're putting it down.
Oh, wow.
We don't
Okay.
want the thing to fly off.
Yeah.
So we do it a little differently.
Have you experienced any of our dust storms yet?
Well,
we had a pretty mild monsoon. So
We haven't,
Well, we
haven't
had-
seen a
We
good
had
one.
one.
we haven't. We saw there was a good one in August.
Yeah, in August of last
That was,
year.
but the
we-
only one though. We were
Yeah.
a little disappointed, honestly. We kept hearing about these haboobs, and I'm like,
oh yeah. Yeah.
I called Ralph right away. I'm like, Ralph, what's going on here, man?
You're going to see the haboop that's going to come with the microburst that's going to come.
Microburst, yeah.
And we have a story of a customer that had a microburst hit his house and ripped off his roof. And all it was left was a solar panel on the trusses.
Yeah.
So the system stayed on because it was into the trusses.
Yeah, because this
But the plywood all around it was gone and the roofing was gone.
That is hilarious.
because this is
not
basi-
for them.
This
but
essentially is a giant kite on your roof. So we want to
Right.
make sure it's
Yeah.
anchored properly so that the wind doesn't lift it up. So
So we do the survey, we do all that stuff. It all looked great, and then we move forward. At that point, then we go into design where we have our engineers that design the system. They do all the electrical design, everything, put that, and then they submit it for permits to the city. We have to get all the permits done. Once all those come back and everything looks good, then we can schedule an installation date for you guys. We say, hey, we're going to be out. Could be a 1 day. This would be a 1 day install for you guys. It's typical 1 day. You could have a 2 or 3 depending on how big these systems are. But yours would be probably knocked out easily in 1 day.
Yep.
And then once it's all installed, we have the interconnection agreement. So then we have to have there's twofold. The city inspector has to approve it.
Right.
So I think you guys are Glendale, if I remember right.
Yes.
Yep.
So Glendale would come out and they'd have to approve it. And then we'd have to wait for APS to say, I'm good, and they would turn it on.
Yep.
That's pretty much the process. Takes about 90 days.
Yeah.
okay.
I tell people 90 days is probably good. So I tell people plan on 3 to 4 months. If it's less than that, then great.
Yeah, because we've actually done stuff in less than 45 days. It just depends.
We have no idea what the permit offices are going to say. It's out of
Oh,
our
exactly.
control. If we had our way, if you've ever come to our warehouse, we have stuff in the warehouse. We can install it tomorrow if we wanted to, but it's not up to us. It's up
Right.
to APS. It's up to jurisdictions. It's up to inspections. They're gonna do their due diligence, and we're gonna do our due diligence, and that just takes time. So
Would you say that Harmon Solar has a decent reputation with the inspectors in a lot of the cities around here? Like, if you heard feedback that they like your work and that somebody else's is rotten, or what?
yeah. So when I was on the residential project management side, we didn't have a whole lot of things coming back and say, no, you guys did this wrong. You did this wrong. You did this wrong. It needs to come back. So that's good because it gets your system turned on faster.
Right.
But I have heard of companies where there's horror stories where they put the wrong panels on, or did this wrong. This wasn't labeled. And they have to keep coming out
Put it on the wrong house.
on the wrong house, or multiple times. You have to keep coming back multiple times, and that just delays the process.
Did that really happen?
Yes.
Yeah.
They put on the wrong house.
Yes.
That's like amputating and taking off the wrong leg.
Yep.
That would suck.
I went in to have a wart removed, and next thing you know, my leg was gone. Right? I mean, it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we do hear those stories, but there might be some small minor speed bumps, but we're there with you every step of the way to make sure that everything goes smoothly. So
Okay.
Next page.
Very good.
unfortunately, I won't be your project manager though,
That could be a good thing.
unless you want me to.
I'm to be determined.
To be determined. We can have Ralph be your project manager.
Yeah, he won't.
Let's have Ralph.
No,
do
he
it.
won't do that.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
You said it was 3 to 4 months. It'll be like 9 to 10 months at that point. So.
I said years.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the next page just basically goes into kind of a summary of the full thing, your average utility bill, how much you're using, the price per kilowatt hour that we mentioned before. I know this says 18 cents, but we looked at your bill. It fluctuates on the month, so it depends.
Right.
And so the annual utility price escalator is saying 5% on average. Sometimes there might be years where utility rates don't increase, but then they have these huge jumps. So that's why, again, it's just kind of an average. A lot of these are based off of yearly averages. And again, the system details, it's a 6.56 kilowatt system. Again, it was $15,000. So if you are getting multiple quotes, that's kind of the important thing that you would show other companies. Be like, hey, this company, I know you're probably going to propose something different to me, but I want to compare apples to apples. So can you give me a 16.5 kilowatt system and let me see your price?
6.5. You said 16.
Oh, sorry, 6.56. So that
See,
way
he's
you-
already trying to
He's
steer
trying
me
to do
wrong,
something
man.
wrong,
I
man.
can't believe it.
trying to sell more panels, put them in your pool.
Wow.
So yeah, so you can compare apples to apples. You can, so you know, there might be other companies out there that will say like ours is cheaper, but they're showing you a smaller system. It goes back to my gas station example. You know, if gas is, for sake of math, $4 a gallon, and you get 10 gallons, that's how much? Pop quiz.
You can't ask
Carry the
questions.
one.
Again.
Take away that. I think it's 40.
$40, $40, right? But then if you have this other gas station, and like, oh, I only paid $20 for gas. Like, well, okay, well, gas was $5 a gallon there, and you only got 4 gallons,
Right.
So yes, it's cheaper, but you got less and you paid more per gallon. So that's why I always tell people, if you are going to get multiple quotes, compare apples to apples. Compare the same system size or the same production to figure out, well, how much am I really paying? Is it really cheaper, or are they just charging more per kilowatt?
Because what
way.
you're going to see, I'll bet you, I will bet $10. I'll bet you $10 on this.
What? Do I have to agree to it?
No.
It's in my contract.
You're going to have another company come in. They're going to look at your roof and they're going to see all that extra space.
Yep.
And they're going to give you a system that's going to fill in all that space. Because they're going to want to put as many panels as possible, because the bigger the system, the more the commission.
Right.
That's how it works in this industry.
Interesting.
Right? So their commission's based on goes based off of system size. The bigger the system is, the more money they make.
Yeah.
That's not how we do it. We do it based on what your needs are.
Yeah.
So I really want you to go get other people to give you proposals, and then I'd love to bring you back to talk about what they pitched you.
Well, that won't be difficult because
the sales rep,
they're
too.
all coming over.
No, not the sales rep.
They're all coming over to my house. So
Right.
yeah,
So when you are ready, it'd be great for you to do that, and then I would love to seriously come back on here. We'll cross off all the company. Just want to talk about what they pitched you and how it was different.
We don't want you to make a decision right now.
well, do you know
on
what?
this podcast? We want you to think about it, do your homework, research, get other quotes. You know,
Yes,
do it that way.
Here's
Right.
I just hope that those other companies don't listen to this podcast,
I hope they do.
because I'm gonna bring them on the show here.
But I will guarantee you they were going to pitch you a 10K system, because I think that's what your roof will take.
Yeah.
Okay.
About a 10K. It's going to happen. And I would say it's probably going to cost you about cash 36,000, 35,000. Jeez. That's my guess.
Yikes.
That's my guess.
At 10K, I would say I'm guessing lower. I'm saying about 31,000.
That's still a lot.
Really?
I mean, that's
You're
just
going to undercut me $4,000.
Yeah,
You're
See,
fine.
don't buy solar from Ralph. Buy it from Ben, because I'm cheaper than Ralph.
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
And
how.
our hypothetical companies we just made up.
That's how
My
that
hypothetical
works.
company's cheaper.
No, that's interesting though. But that's a good point. Is it? Yeah, I see that there's a lot of misdirection and a lot of just straight up deception
Yeah.
in the sales process. So
Yeah.
it's important to, like you said, apples to apples comparison.
Yep.
We've got Harmon Solar now. We can go somewhere else and say,
Yeah, don't
Let's
even
figure
tell them
out-
you've talked to us,
yeah. But to take
because they
what,
hate to hear that.
well, I mean,
They do.
I can only
Yeah.
imagine. Take that and then compare them after the fact and
Yeah.
kind of see what it is.
Other
that makes
companies
sense
hate
me.
to hear that you talk to us. They hate the fact that we have a podcast, because we call it all out.
Yeah, we call it all the nonsense in the whole industry.
Yep. So we get some flack for that, but you know what? That's why we're going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
Because we
So-
want to put the
So,
information.
so yeah, ask for 2 proposals. One proposal, hey, give me what you think I should have. You know, you do your homework, and you give me what you think is best for me in my situation, just like we did here. And then give me another quote that's for a 6.56 kilowatt system. That way that's so you can compare the apples to apples.
And see if
price.
they ask you any questions.
Yeah.
I bet you they don't. Not to the detail that we did. No way.
Interesting.
'Cause they
Wow.
don't.
They're gonna say
Yeah, that would be
they're
interesting.
gonna go, give me the bill.
That's what they want. They want your bill, and
give
then
me
they're
the
going to
bill
put
and
as many
I'll bill,
panels as they can on your roof. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Wow. This has been
Very
insightful.
enlightening.
Now
Yeah.
I have listened to I think I listened to a random previous podcast where you talked about the sales process and how you have the distributors and you have the sales organizations and they hire installers and how that whole process works. And it just feels super shady. And it also feels like sales from like the 1950s. Real it's bizarre how archaic and Byzantine and how they rely on such, frankly, from a sales perspective, it feels like sleight of hand.
Yeah.
Oh,
when
yeah.
they're trying to sell you. And listening to that podcast, when I did, it was just unbelievable how like you said, you're transparent and you're very clear and you do it you do it in a fun way. The podcasts are fun to listen to, but they're incredibly informative. So that's why I'm here talking to you, because I obviously value that. I mean, and I've been in sales for a long time in different industries and stuff, so I kind of get it. But I really respect the way that Harmon Solar does their business. So I'm looking forward to this. The proposal's good. There's a lot of information, and we're looking forward to getting some quotes from some others.
Perfect.
Yeah,
And
this
I'm going
has
to
been
try.
really enlightening.
Yeah,
Educate them.
I'm going to try to act like I don't know anything. Play dumb.
That's what you need to do.
That's what you do. Yeah.
I want solar panels on my house. How much can you get me?
Yeah, we won't be playing this in Arkansas. Okay.
The longer you're in this industry, and I'm probably going to get some hatred from this from Ralph or whoever else at the company, but
Hate
you start to realize how much you dislike the industry as a whole and other sales companies and other salespeople, because you're like, are you really saying this? Are you really doing this? Is this what the world is like out there? That's why I like this podcast, because it exposes all that and it kind of tells the truth. Like, I feel like we have a call to action to do better in this industry, because there are, there are a lot of shady companies out there. Every now and then, if I go to, stores and I see like the solar rep or the booth, whatever, I'll go talk to them. They don't know who I am. Or they knock on my door. I'm like, come on in.
Well, that's the other thing too. Is it
Wow,
feels
that's creepy, dude.
well, it feels like
Pitch me,
His
pitch
sign
me
says,
solar.
Welcome,
way-
solar.
Welcome, solicitors.
it wasn't it wasn't creepy. The way he said it was creepy.
That's true.
Now,
Dang it. Gotta work on it.
that's the thing is that it just occurred to me that you probably spend as much time educating or frankly re-educating people that you talk to as opposed to just selling your product or solution.
Yeah. I think that's
true.
That's true. A lot of people who call in, back when I was, fielding and screening calls or whatever, people that call in that wanted solar, I had no problem telling them, no, don't do it. I looked at your situation and this is not a good fit for you. Well, but this company gave me, a quote, and this company gave me a quote. Yeah, because they want your money. I don't want you calling me a year from now saying this was a bad decision. So I'm telling you what's best for you, because I know the industry, I know the financials behind it. I don't want you making this decision. If you decide to go solar, go with somebody else. I don't want Harmon to have that reputation of us giving you a bad deal.
And we get bad reviews for that.
I do.
We'll get bad reviews because people are like, they wouldn't sell me solar. Well, because you shouldn't buy it.
I have a bad review out there with my name on it because of that. Ben said I shouldn't do it, and I did it anyways.
And now I'm regretting the fact that I did it.
Now I'm screwed.
That's just bizarre.
Yeah.
No, but this has been very informative. Really
Yeah.
good presentation.
Well, thank you. Not bad for the first time, right?
You're a quick learner.
It's okay.
It could be better.
It was okay.
I'll get critiqued later.
You won't see him next time you come on. All right. No, I'm kidding. Door's locked.
Any other questions?
Did you have any other questions? I'm fine.
No, I don't think so. It seems a lot more, like I said, I didn't really know much coming into this, but a lot of this makes sense. I like the breakdown. I like that you point out the breakdown of what to ask and what's important to know.
Good.
So, yeah,
Sounds
this was
good.
really good.
I'd say the only thing you didn't hit on, here's my critique.
Here it is.
The only thing you didn't hit on was the warranties.
Well, I did kind of mention that.
You mentioned it, but you didn't get into it.
The warranties are pretty much the same in the industry. And I'm sorry I'm saying this out to everyone, because every company is going to talk to you and go, our warranties are the best in the industry.
Oh, they tried that? Yeah.
It's all the same
Well,
manufacturer.
we do have one thing different.
I know it's all the same manufacturer warranty. You're not getting, the panels have a manufacturer warranty. The inverters have a manufacturer warranty. And they're all the same throughout
25
the industry.
years.
25 years. So,
That's not totally true, because if you use an inferior panel, they're less than 25 years.
but everyone's selling that tier 1 panel out there.
Mostly everyone.
See, yeah.
Mostly everyone.
So what's the difference with Harmon Solar?
We have a roof penetration warranty.
Yeah.
So the actual penetration, because when we're putting the rails on your home, we're doing a lot of holes everywhere.
Yeah.
We warranty 3 inches around every one of those holes for 30 years. So if they leak, it's a roof penetration leak warranty.
Never thought
if
of
any
that.
of them leak, we'll fix that leak.
Yeah,
We'll fix that hole.
The questions you want to ask when you are shopping for solar or anything is, what am I getting? What's the warranty? What's warranty? So if you're getting panels and labor and inverters and people working on your electrical stuff, you want to go, well, what's the warranty on everything that I'm getting and all that labor and all that roof work that you're doing, all that equipment? What's my warranties across the board for everything? Does every company offer like a roof warranty? Or are there companies that don't have roof warranties?
They do, but it's typical of
Like 5 years.
5 to 10 years. There are a few companies that might go up to 20.
Okay.
Few, or the only one I know of that goes
That's
to 30.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing we do is if your roof ever gets bad and you want to replace it, so let's say you just need to replace your roof. Well, now you've got these panels up there, so now you have an added cost.
Right.
So that's why we always tell people to take a look at the roof before you put solar on it, because if your roof's bad, you might as well just fix it now, right?
Correct.
Because there's a pretty high cost to removing panels and putting them back on. What we'll do is if you re-roof with us, then we'll do that. We'll do the removal and replacement as part of it. We basically won't charge additional for that. We do it all in one shot.
Oh, interesting.
So, but if you do it from somebody else, then that's they would charge you.
Right.
So there's you have to think about things. Is my roof in good shape? Is it going to last another 10, 15, 20 years? Because if it's not, I might want to think about doing a roof. If you're only going to be in the house for another 5 years and your roof you think is going to last at least 5 years, then you're good. You don't worry about it. Right? 10 years, you're good, but you don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But people don't think about that. Then all of a sudden they have a roof that's bad. They put solar on it and like, oh, now I've got to pay all this extra money just to remove these panels.
Yeah.
So just added cost people don't think about.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes a lot of sense. I like the approach of making sure we're prepared not only for what may or may not happen, the roof, but also like how we're going to grow in our electricity usage over time. Just thinking about all those things now, because I'd rather do it right the first time or at the beginning than have to go back and fix and change things. So
Yeah.
Do it right the first time. There you go.
That's what we do.
yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thanks. This was good.
This was good.
Thanks for coming out and joining us. We
you.
appreciate that. And like I said, when you get some other, come back.
Yeah.
We would love to talk about, and even if they're better than ours or they were smarter than us.
I'm actually
doubt
gonna.
it.
Good luck.
I'm actually gonna. Maybe not better looking, but definitely not smarter. I'm gonna actually
I majored
take.
in physics.
I'm gonna take the no solar thing off my little sign, and like you said, I will welcome them in. Come in, please.
Walk through this metal scanner first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Please empty your pockets when you enter and when you leave, because I think you probably stole something.
You should schedule the appointment for a later date and time like they're gonna want, and then like secretly have Ralph and I pop out.
No.
Hey,
And I would just focus on the questions that they ask you to find out how they're going to build it. And if they don't ask you anything except for a bill, that's typical.
Yeah.
And those bills
Interesting.
remember, 10K system. Watch.
10K.
I
Enjoy
like
it.
it.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Ben.
Thank you.
Make sure
Good
you
job,
like,
dude.
subscribe, and all that good stuff. Follow us on the social so you know when the next social.
Like and subscribe. You find us on
podcast.
podcasts. I mean, you'll find us on iTunes. You'll find us on Spotify. All the places that you guys get your podcasts, we're there. And we'll be back again in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to see what we're going to do. I think we're going to do a battery one.
Let's do batteries.
Yeah, we're going to go into batteries a little bit. Powerwall 3s are now out, and we're actually actively selling those, and they are different.
They're different.
And they're actually nicer. So we'll get into the Powerwall 3 and kind of show you guys how that works and how it works with your bill and all that.
All right.
So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.